Thanks again. I was definitely it's been a long time coming, so I'm glad that I was able to get on. I just wanted to come on like more like Jago style. We has his whole setup, but I'm just not there yet. So I was like, you know what? I'm actually still building out the room, so I was just like, let me just get on here without a camera.
We are live, my friend. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it from here.
I just wanted to come on like more like Jago style. He has his whole setup. Is it the back?
It was looping. I thought he was actually still going there, my friend.
No, I
That's
wasn't
funny.
even talking.
That's funny. Well,
So
you
you
guys,
live right now?
welcome to an awkward fucking talking shit with Eagle. Yes, sir. Episode 412. Got an amazing guest for you. As you heard, Gmxog is in the house. As you may have heard, a sought after guest. I have been trying to get this gentleman on the show since day one. Much respect for you. Go ahead and tell us how you're doing and where we can find you, good sir.
Well, Eagle, thank you again for having me on. I know it's been a minute since the beginning, and I always said I was going to come on. Like I was saying before we went live, I wanted to come on here in the capacity of like just like my whole shop set up with the with the webcam. But today we're just going to do it like a podcast style where we don't have to necessarily show video. But you can find me at Instagram at GMXOG and Twitter at G to the MX. Also, you can search GMXOG on YouTube to find me there, or go to gmxtv.com.
Nice. Well, as I said, I do have a ton of respect for you, my friend. You were nice enough to let me test for you there for a minute. I can't thank you enough for that. But yeah,
you
it
did
was
good on
more the
that test.
respect issue that wanted to get you on, man. I really believe that your breeding and what you do in the community is quality. So I thought like what we do here is just another chance to kind of get to know the people we see online. So I wanted to get you on here and introduce you formally to the people that come around here in this community and some of the people in the cannabis community that may not know you. So it's a pleasure, my friend. So let's get
Man.
this started right off the bat, man. Hopefully you got something to smoke on. What are you smoking on over
Um, I am smoking on some of the stuff that I grew out. It's the East Coast Sour Diesel. It was it was a hybrid that I got off of Empire Breeding Company. It was Lorax 315. It was his project, some kind of preservation project, which I think it was the 95 sour East Coast Sour Diesel crossed to the 98. And that was a little project that he did. I know a lot of the people under Empire are using the sour diesel for other projects. So I'm smoking on that tonight. And I have a little tiny bit of this other stuff that I got from actually somebody else in our community. His name is Moses. He goes by like what is it? Oh, Top Quality Farms. He's out here in Los Angeles and he's on Instagram. I'm not sure if you follow him, but I met up with him just recently and he gave me a little of his stuff, which I forget the name again, but yeah, it's pretty fire as well. So that's what I'm smoking on. What are you smoking on there, Eagle?
there? I am smoking on a little bit of Tiger King. The Tiger King, which a gentleman that came on the show, White Feather Grows, sent me. And I'm not even sure what's in it, but it's delicious. And it's one of my current favorites right now, to be honest with you. I threw it down just because I got it was right around the time of, big hype for the Tiger King. And it just cracked me up. I just thought it'd be funny to have some Tiger King in the garden, but it turned out to be amazing. So may stay for a
How's
while.
how's the grow? Is it a solid grow?
Oh yeah, it's a beast. It took right off, big old nice buds. It's got that piney terp that I've been looking for. It's got like a piney like berry thing going on there. Super nice,
Mm.
super smooth, nice daytime smoke.
I bet you the patients like that, that fruitiness during the daytime stuff. That's what I always liked. So that's what my patients like. So that's where it's at. Cause something that tastes good, but also is not won't knock you out so we can't like work or go about your business.
Well, the pints like that for me are like they're a double-edged sword, to be honest with you. One, I can be clear-headed, nice, ready to do all that work. I get a little greedy on the lunch hour and double up. Ugh, I might be done for the day.
Yeah. So yeah, you ran that Pine Valleys for me a couple years back. You did a great job on it, so I do appreciate that. Do you still have that in your garden by any chance, or did you? Is it probably cycled out? I'm guessing.
Unfortunately, it is cycled out. I'm
Yeah.
still, on that pheno hunt. There's so many great things out there, and people send me a lot of
Oh yeah, of
stuff.
course.
It was, it was fire. It definitely made it for a few rounds after the test. So that's for sure. But
Yeah, I was just
unfortunately, it was like a lot of strains get lost sometimes. Not in my garden, not that way, but sometimes they do is cloning. A
yeah.
hot week or two, and you're not expecting it, and that round of clones doesn't make it. It happens sometimes, and
Yeah,
unfortunately, that's what happened with me.
I brought it up just because we were talking about the daytime strains, and one of the strains that I did, that one is definitely one of my strains that are I use for the daytime. You know what I mean? It's a nice daytime strain in my opinion. It's just not too heavy, and it has that like familiar pine turf that people like. That's why I named it the Pine Valleys. But it has a lot of that cookie lineage in there, the cookies and gas.
That's why I was looking forward to getting it, man. To me that was kind of a blessing because that's even back then I was looking for the pines, and I was like, oh boy, hopefully she's straight pines. But I got more of the maple syrup pheno there that
Mm,
you were describing there in the beginning. A little bit of
yeah,
pine. Yeah, it had me excited. I really thought I was going to get that heavy pine, but when it cured up, it was more of the maple syrup. Still really
it
good.
is.
Really.
It is heavy on that sweetness because it's just lineage. The lineage is, that skunk beer. That's a hybrid between cookies, and the Rossi Kush. That's another hybrid between cookies. So I mean, there's very heavy cookie in like a lot of the cultivars out there these days. Cookies and OG. So that is probably why. But I mean, on the plant though, when you grew it out, I'm sure you like remind me. Well, the reason why I named it Pine Valleys is because it reminded me of like walking through like a pine, like forest. Just that heavy pine smell. It didn't really reflect the terpenes. It's more about just the name. So that's the whole story with the Pine Valleys. So it's not as much pine in the taste but in the smell, but when you grow it out from like seed, yeah, it's definitely will make you think of like a Pine Valley.
So we're a little ahead of ourselves here, my friend. We're a little ahead of ourselves. I usually start in the beginning, and I mean the beginning. So you mind telling me when was the first moment cannabis entered your life? That's how back we usually start. Let's start
Yeah,
there,
yeah, that's
if you
my
don't mind.
bad. No, I totally don't mind. I know we started off, but I heard your show before. I know you had some questions at the beginning. Um, but for me, um, the first time I really smoked weed was probably like I want to say eighth grade. But I'm almost thinking it was at the end of seventh grade. So yeah, I would probably say around that time was when the first time I smoked cannabis.
Well, that's a little vague. A little vague. Uh, with some friends out of a pipe. I mean, we
Oh,
swipe it
oh, oh,
from
okay.
our parents.
All right. Well, this is how I mean the story goes. All right. So it was me. I was a skater at that time. I was like really into skateboarding. That was like my thing. So a lot of like the skater kids and we were just hanging out, and then I guess somebody had weed. We were young. I mean, you gotta understand, like this is eighth grade, and back in like, cause I'm like early 40s now, so this was like back in the day. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was so long ago, and I've smoked so much cannabis since then, as you can imagine. But basically, I remember just one of like the three of us all skating together. We always were hanging out skating. Um, and then one of us got, I mean, my friend got cannabis, and we rolled it up and we smoked it, and I remember just feeling like it, I think our initial reaction was it was like lace or something because we just didn't know. Like that was like our initial reaction to what was going on. Um, and then I, later on, like less than like 6, 7 weeks later, my brother, older brother, gave me real like high end cannabis. And I realized what I was smoking was just like the dirt, just shit weed, and I was just very paranoid just because that was like the main effect that I just succumbed to at the time. Just paranoia. As I don't know if you remember as a kid smoking weed, like paranoia was definitely the one side effect that always affected me. But yeah, that was like my first experience smoking cannabis a long time ago.
Well, it's pretty average. I would say eighth grade. It's pretty average for most of the folks I talk to. So did it
Right.
become a common practice after that? Was it pretty steady? Hold off for a while. Where'd we go from there?
Yeah. From there, yeah, I was always a fan. So I definitely became a so-called stoner early on. Um, and by the time I went to high school, I was like hunting for like high-end quality sensimilia, is what we called it at the time. Which obviously everything now is sensimilia. You don't even think anything of sensimilia. That's just what it is. Like if you wouldn't have a conversation about something that had seeds in it, it just wasn't part of the normal, conversations now. But back then, like that's what you want because a lot of people on the street. I grew up in the Northeast, and whereas in California, things were a little different in terms of cannabis law and everything else. So it wasn't decrimmed to like I was well into my 30s. So, but yeah, I've been smoking, pretty much since the beginning, and I played sports in high school. I smoked through all that. So went to college, smoked through all that. So definitely a fan
So
of
I heard you
smoking.
mention skating there. So it seemed like that would kind of come hand in hand, but it seemed like that would also be a little stereotypish because I knew a lot of skaters, very cool people, but not all of them were stoners or smoked. Some of them were like truly very intellectual kids, man, that just loved to board. So I was that did you find that to be true? Would it have been stereotypish if I would assume, just because of the boarding cannabis was part of the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of the better skaters weren't the ones who were really smoking. You know what I mean? Like that's why I didn't really start smoking. I mean, I think a lot of people smoked cannabis earlier than I did. So I'm guessing it was like early eighth grade, if I remember exactly the time. But I remember sixth grade and like skating, and I'd see people smoking. I didn't, so and I didn't smoke in sixth grade. So, but yeah, it definitely goes hand in hand. I think it goes hand in hand with a lot of things back in the days in like the late 80s, the early 90s, whatever industry it is, even from anything from punk rock to, to rap or to whatever thing, there seems like cannabis is just kind of like universal. Um, so yeah, you know, everybody smokes cannabis, it seems like, especially back then.
They did. And I played sports a lot too, and I always seemed to, even though I did well in sports, a lot of places I did still get that frowny, it's both sides. A lot of them stoners or sports guys did smoke, but there was that a few that it's gonna mess me up. I never found it to mess with my athletic ability at all. I think a lot of that shit was, terribly stereotypical. I'm glad that we're in an age where we're not pushing that same shit to our kids in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I know
So
lawyers smoke weed, and other people, everybody smokes weed, and some people hide it better than others, but I mean, most people do, and if they don't, they drink. So I mean, now what? You know what I mean? So I I ran cross country, and I played basketball in high school, and I smoked through it all. So I mean, you know. But that's why I always thought the cannabinoids affected me differently. Like I think a lot of people, like peers of mine, would smoke like the way I would smoke, and they would be like more of that stereotypical like stoner type. You know what I mean? Where I was just, I didn't really feel the effects of like not trying to like that whole stereotype of what people said about people who smoke cannabis about not trying to like do something or having some kind of like drive or ambition. You know what I mean? So I think that's just kind of goes back to like those old like days where they try to like make weed or marijuana as they called it like this sin, or this they just try to scare people out of it just because everybody knows if you smoke cannabis or if you ingest cannabis through your lungs, they definitely will open up your mind and like look at things a little differently, and you may not conform to what some people may want, you know. So that's just like the old thing when it comes to cannabis, where people just, you know, they want to scare you out of it, especially when we grew up in the 90s. I'm not sure how old you are, Eagle, but, growing up back then, there still was like a lot of, the whole decrim thing is so new to, like, compared to like a lot of people who are, you know, Generation X, so.
Yeah, you made me feel old there, Jim X. You made me feel old. I'm just turned 49, brother. To be honest with you, just turned 49 a couple months ago. So there you go. So how old are you? So when
You
did
look good, buddy.
thank you, my friend. I greatly appreciate that. I mean, really. So
Yeah, man, you inspire me. You inspire me, man. You inspire me. You and Bubble, obviously. Just trying to like work on like you know, muscle building and like that stuff. So props to you. I see you. A couple of you guys on Instagram. I see you guys doing what you got to do when it comes to like physical fitness. So that's what's up. So props to
man,
you.
thank you, my friend. You gotta keep it up, man. You gotta keep it up. Body that's in motion stays in motion. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I view
Exactly.
that shit.
Yep. But for me, I started growing. Oh man, it's been 15 years. 15 years. Um, so I'll just quickly tell you the story. I told the story a few times. Uh, so I graduated college in 2005, and then I was already trying to grow. I didn't grow, but I wanted to. I was a musician, and I really was into it, and I loved cannabis, and I would write about it, and I was all about it. So long story short, I moved to the West Coast, growing up in the East Coast, and I mean, I was born in New York and grew up in Boston, so I was out in the Northeast. I always wanted to go to California. I visited with my brother, and I visited uh, with my now wife before I went out there. And so in 2005, we moved out there. I moved to Oakland, California. Um, I got married, had my first child, and during that time, I had a caregiver friend, and he got clones, and I just like grabbed a few clones, and I started growing. So that's the first time I grew anything. I grew like cannabis. It was from clone. Wasn't very successful. It was the same story that you probably hear. It was like first time growing. There was no. I mean, you gotta remember this is 2005, so MySpace I think was the only social media that was going on at the time, and there was no cannabis going on in there. YouTube was like in its infancy. So most of us in the community back then were on the forums. So I pretty much started the G to the MX. That was my username and my email and my YouTube, and I just started that, and then I just pretty much just like spent years on the forums, pretty much like 3 straight years on the forum, just learning everything I could about growing. Um, and I had a very shitty season. The first season was very shitty. I used CFLs. I had put like tinfoil on. It was a closet grow in my soon-to-be son's room. I had a closet going, and it was pretty much harvested like 3 months before he was born. And it was shitty, but I grew two little plants. I think I remember getting about an eight, maybe a quarter each off each little plant. But yeah, it was shitty, and but I still was able to smoke it. and I was still able to like, not necessarily document it, but at least remember like what I did and just remember the experience that I had. And I just, just completely just fell in love. And I knew that I wanted to grow, and maybe, on like a professional level. I was already instantaneous, and I wanted to do something more with it. Um, and then you fast forward, I did, and I just continued doing that. I just was growing, kept growing as much as possible, popping seeds. And you fast forward to 2016. I won the contest to become alpha at the time. They did like the yearly contest to become alpha back in the day, and Med won it the year before me, and then I won it that year, and then so I was on that team. I was on the team, and then immediately started like what I would call at the time, like just like chucking pollen. Before it was even like I was already a better grower and know what I was doing. It was probably already a decade by the time I really got into like the you know the kind of selective breeding that I'm doing now. Over the years, I did all sorts of different um, you know, like I back in the day, I used to do like the um, the stressing of breeding just to do S1. So I did that for a couple of years, and I did have seeds from that I was using and growing and stuff. But when it came to like real breeding, not this so-called pollen chucking, like the real breeding, whether you do selective breeding, not just like fermenting a plant or reversing a plant and just hitting it to the same plant, like you're actually going through the process of selecting donor parents and selecting the progeny and trying to like, weed out the best and make the most viable and vigorous plant. That pretty much came around 2016, and so I just started just reading, um, and I just never looked back, And I probably have, at least 10 projects. Only three have made it to the market, but I am excited to be where I'm at. And it was definitely a situation where wanted to just to work as hard as I could just to get here and to just study the craft and to put in the work and just have a whole bunch of breeding failures and just move forward with the product that's the quality product, um, you know, stable. So that's all like a little quick growing story.
Too too quick in my opinion. Well, getting in with the alpha thing was definitely, I would think, very good for some experience with you. Very good click over there at the Ocean Grown program. I was greatly impressed with the way they set things up over there for the testers to post and everything there. Probably why I didn't make the second round because I never went and filed up over there. But uh,
Yeah.
very impressed with the way they do things over there. Very serious and quality genetics, in my opinion. And what a good time to get
Absolutely.
pulled up in over there when everything was going full tilt. And a lot of great folks, as you suggested there, Medgrower one, Empire Breeding Co. kind of hanging out. Of course, everybody at Ocean Grown, all the cool people over there as well. So, what a good time to get pulled up and, good advice and, just overall a good time to be in cannabis. So congratulations on that win, brother.
Oh well, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Ty was part of the team when I got on. Yeah, it's been a lot of people.
I'm actually growing, testing for type at the moment. I just finished up some of his 6 shooter and citrus blazer, and I've got
Yeah,
the
that Citrus Blazer looks
BBQ
amazing.
B2 as well. It is, man. That's right now. That's the Laffy strain in my garden right now. That's the one that kind of couple fucking joints. You kind of got a nice little grin, little laugh going. That 6 shooter now, that shit's fucking gassy, super
Nice.
gassy, really good. But it's one of them ones where, for real, you double up on that 6 shooter and you're fucking napping. It's nap time. I did that last night, to be honest with you. I was sitting here, man. I'd be like, all right, I got to do a bunch of shit in the garden. I'm just gonna sit down, smoke one real quick. I'd sit down and smoke one, and I'm one of them people that I'm usually pretty dedicated. Once I light the tip of that joint, I'm committed. I'm usually gonna finish that thing. So that was the case last night, and I'd finish that thing off or get close, and I'd be like, all right, just a half hour nap, just a half hour nap, and it went on all night long, just rinse, lather, repeat. I didn't get shit done. So definitely good stuff. So
Hell yeah.
you had what was you? I already know the answers here, but I want you to tell me what was your first breeding prep? Which was the first strain of? Which was which one are you proud of? Which one was first? Let's put that up.
Well, the first,
Which one was
I'm gonna tell you
first?
first. Well, I'll tell you both, but the first one that I did was the Rosie Kush. So the Rosie Kush was the first initial breeding around 2016. I used the Spartan Kush male, which was a strain under ocean grown at the time. PH Nerds developed it. It's BTYOG crossed to the Wizard's Potions, which is one of I think Vader's strains. Um, and then I crossed it to a local cut that I had out in Massachusetts. It was just I don't even know the name of it, but I know that it reminded me of it was an old school flavor profile. It had like cookies like offhand, but it also reminded me of like purple Urkel, and these other kind of like familiar terps from like way back, like maybe like early 2000s, late 90s. And when I looked at the genetics, there was a whole bunch of other things, all like Bubba, pre 98 Bubba, and obviously like the purple Urkel, like I said, and the Forum Girl Scout cookies. So it was very, and I just got the cut. So I didn't even have like, I didn't like grow it from seeds. So I didn't know how it grew, but I had the cut and I grew it out, and I had patients at the time out there, and the patients loved it and I loved it. It was and it just was very, very, just terpy and very sweet. Um, and so I crossed that to the Spartan Kush, and that's the Rosie Kush. So if you ever do get the that flavor profile, I always called it the Urkel uh, cookies pheno. If you find it's that very much that cookie profile that fades to black, the purple colors. I also threw in a couple other plants, um, but nothing really made it out besides that one. So that's the first one is the Rosie Kush. I do have another one. I can quickly just tell you. It's called. I don't have a name for it or anything, but I call it either. There's two different cultivars that I still have, which is the Strawberry Number 6 and the Strawberry Number 8. Basically, that's the same father, and it was a strawberry hybrid at the time, and it's definitely more of some mysterious lineage. But I'm thinking with all the research. I think it was told it was like a raspberry Kush S1. But I'm more when I think of the profile and the reading, I kind of came to the conclusion that it's the strawberry cough, uh, and that's what I think it is because it reeks of strawberries. It's so potent. Um, so those are the two hybrids that I still have some work to do, but definitely the Rosie Kush is the first. And then my favorite, and not necessarily the favorite, but the one that's my new flagship, it's Black Rosie, and Black Rosie is a cross between Dark Plasma and Rosie Kush. So that's like the flagship one of them right now. It's one of the best cultivars after all these years that I worked on. It really has a very unique profile. It's like almost like it has like this marshmallow on the front end with the gas on the back end. It's super sweet but super gassy. Very interesting profile. A little bit of that salt and pepper type of mix, little spice in it as well from the dark plasma. So that's my new thing that I'm working on right now. I'm hoping to do some new project with that. So that's my the most what I'm proud of right now, just because I put so much work into that one.
Yeah, it's got to be amazing string, the Rossi there, because it is backbone to a lot of your crosses, and then it's in the Pine Valley, that's for sure, right? Obviously, the
Yep,
Black Rossi and the Rossi Punch. So it's got to be the backbone for a lot of stuff. Yeah. So,
absolutely.
which one, which was Pine Valley the first release with Ocean Grown, then?
No,
Or
Rosie
was
Kush was the first one.
Rossi first?
It was Rosie, and right after Rosie, I released the Pine Valleys. Soon after, less than a year later, I released the Pine Valleys. Um, Yeah. So the third release is the Black Rosy. So those are three releases that I did under Ocean Grown. Um, I'm really excited for all of them, and I definitely put the work in to make it like something special. And something that not just just not just like an experiment. There's so many who've done it. I just really wanted to select the best out of the best. Something that I would really want to smoke. You know what I mean? That's where it really comes down to, not just something that's hype. And I have all those hype, for just like for other reasons, like whether it's patients or some kind of like nursery. I have all that stuff, but I think it's important for as a breeder, not all the time, but just sometimes. Like I've done it. Like I've definitely taken a cut and just hit it with one of my own males just to give some new genetics into the pool. But I also think like with the dark plasma and the Rosy Kush cross, the black Rosy cross, is that you actually hunt from seed for the female just to find like the actual phenotype that you want to use moving forward. So there's definitely different approaches you could take with it. There's definitely no hate at anybody who uses clones because I use clones, but I also use seed. You know what I mean? So it all depends on what you want to do. And I'm actually moving into a different direction, uh, just more experimental, where I'm going to use some STS spray to do reverse a nice female to do some um, feminized seeds. But that's more not for a release, but more just to do. I'm most likely to just give it away to everybody for free, just to give free seed out. Um, but I'm definitely on the path where I'm at, where the regular seed. With the technology now, I mean, you could just hire a company, pay like $10 a seed, and you already know if it's a male or female. You know what I mean? So as of right now, I'm currently just doing only regular seed, but for content and just for experimental, I am going to attempt to do S1s again, but do it reversing opposed to just straight up hermaphrodites, who just, self pollinate.
It's muted. Sorry about that. So, when you're working with like a team like that, is such as Ocean Grown, uh, how is are you allowed to kind of like bring in your own strains for working for possible crosses, or do crosses to be considered have to be from the team here?
Yeah, I mean, you do what you want to do. I mean, I think it would be me personally. I would love to work with more stuff in house, but I think it's also important for you to like do your own work and just to find your own you know outside of the genetic pool that we already have, especially if it's verified, like Vader goes, has these Hawaiian strains that he introduced to the library, and shrimp, he has these connections with other um, I don't know, diesel hybrids, and you know what I mean. And I think the BBB3 we got from shrimp, and so I think it's like a group effort, and just to build up a library and just to have access to quality genetics. Um, and when you have like a library like Vader or shrimp, there definitely comes to the point where you can just take one of your own strains and cross it to the other strain and come up with something amazing. But when you're a young breeder like myself, when you only really have like 10 strains, but I know it seems like a lot, but there's only so much I could do to cross each other. You know what I mean? Before it would just be like null and voided. You know, so you definitely want to have an array of genetics. And so you're not just like reinventing the wheel, that you're actually doing something that actually will, produce something that that's what your intention is. So and I definitely go into all the strains with a plan. You know what I mean? Like for example, the Black Rosy, I knew for a fact that the dark plasma offered, and that specific mother that I still have, obviously, and that I want to pass on, and what the Rosy Kush. So it's definitely a situation where you really have to think about what you're trying to create, and just execute. You know what I mean? I just knew I was just, I mean, it's always luck, I guess, too. You never know how with genetics. And that's why you have to test, and that's why you have to hunt and hunt and hunt. But I mean, this one phenotype that I found out of like 25, I was just like, yes. I mean, so it's doable. You know what I mean? It's not like something you have to like pop like 100 seeds. You can still find something really, interesting with this pack. So I was like, okay, this is going to be solid, and I'm looking forward to. Actually, I'm doing another run right now, like week one of it, and I'm really excited to find something. I actually have clones of everything. Hopefully, so everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. So it's definitely interesting way of going into the breeding. You know, um, but there's definitely no rules really. It's just really about respect. I think when it comes down to anything, when it comes to this breeding thing, it's just respecting where you getting your genetics from. You know what I mean?
I do. I
Not
really
just
do.
not just making up a name.
That's one thing I am very adamant about is quality genetics, man. There's so much shit on the market right now. So many, not even tested, just people make accidents, threw them out there, trying to make it in. And it's quality genetics is very, very important. One thing I gotta say too is I appreciate it. It sounded like when you do your breeding, well, I'm sure half of it is a clone, something like the Rossi Kush, something you want to work on, something you've established. But the second half of the cross, it sounded like you pheno hunt from seed, correct?
Yeah, I mean, well, in terms of when you do the breeding, like sometimes when you do the breeding, you have a male, you have a female. Obviously, for me, in my opinion, like as a breeder, like I always use my own male. You know what I mean? That's just like it's just kind of like, you know what I mean? That's just what most of us do, I would say. Um, you use your own male, at least your own male. Hope preferably both your own male and female. But if you needed to use something outside of your own pool of genetics, you would use like a high end clone, like the Forum Girl Scout cookies or the GG4, or you know what I mean. You know, whatever, Purple Punch, and which is what I did. You know what I mean. So there's a few clone only strains that I had got out here in Hollywood, and I used those to cross against Rosie Kush. And those are the most recent hybrids I did in 2020, which was the Rosie Punch, the Rosie OG, and and the Black Rosie. That was the third hybrid that I did. Um, so 2 out of 3 I were from clone. So I was just saying, like sometimes you could use your own genetics, like I did for. I mean, it's not mine, but our own, like the Black Rosie, which is the dark plasma, which is a cross by Vader, against the Rosie Cushion. Sometimes you could use, high end clones that like the Purple Punch or Banana OG, just clone only strains, and then you could actually make seed with it. Um, and that's what So there's definitely different ways you could go about when you do the make genetics.
So is the high dollar cut like one of those things you're not really wanting to do unless I don't know. Man, why? That's my I guess my question is why. I'm a breeder. When I think of a breeder, I think of them no less different than a creator or anything else. So when you reach in that toolbox for your tools that you're building your project for, you know what I mean. You don't want you're trying to set yourself apart. You know what I'm saying? So it's got to be hard to reach over and grab, that high dollar cut as you referred to bring into the table. So you as a breeder, I mean, why would you grab for just out of curiosity and conversation's sake versus like you were talking about kind of finding a different strain and pheno hunting for something that may not be present or popular at the moment. I guess is that more time consuming sometimes. I guess I'm curious for the others.
Well, for me, I mean, I've never been into the high value cuts. I mean, I have cuts that people might consider high value, but I was never in one of those situations, fortunately enough, that I would have to pay some of the outrageous prices for clones. Um, like the Purple Punch, the Jungle Boys cut, that's just like a local cut. You can get at any dispensary out here in LA, And the Banana OG is definitely another clone only cut that's just readily available. But unfortunately, if you don't live in LA or in San Francisco or something, you go online, and I just was like shocked about how much people are. And I'm not hating on anybody, whatever they're doing. Like you do what you're doing, like that's your own business. Um, but there's definitely a little bit of a markup for sure when I'm seeing clones that I can get around the corner, um, and the clones that like people are buying on like Instagram.
There is a difference. I honestly think that's a lot how things get watered down. Sick cuts being passed on, uh, maybe cuts that aren't even that strain, or just shitty phenos being passed on as $10 phenos. Uh, I'm not a fan of the clones myself. If I can stray away from it, I'd rather do my pheno hunt. I like to find
Yeah.
that special one as we were talking about, and especially being a tester. That's always one of the beauties I love about popping people's seeds there, is because you always got that chance to find that gem that nobody's got there, and might just be that next cut only. You know what I mean? I like that end of it. So keep
Yeah, and for
producing
me,
them seeds, brother.
yeah, and for me, like the whole idea about introducing clones into your breeding library is for the genetics. You know what I mean? Because there's definitely like, for example, like there's a few cuts that I picked up that are already in the lineage of the strains that I already have. For example, I got the GG4 cut just recently. Yeah, and I grew it. I haven't flowered it out yet, but I grew it. But it's one of the clones that are already in like one of the clones cuts breeding projects that I did. Like somebody else used that clone, right? So what you would do in breeding, a lot of people would then do a back cross. So you'd actually back cross it. So you were like almost like back cross it to the grandparent. And then that brings out other different traits and different like phenotypes that people, like say you want more glue, you're most likely to get more glue in that back cross, for example. So there's definitely good things and other things with clones, but I think for breeders, you think of a clone, you think about something exclusive, something that was like a seed, obviously that was just like they were given out, only the clone was given out, so people want to use the genetics of that clone. And that's completely like part of the game, I guess. So I've done it a couple times. I did it with I used a clone only for the Rosy Punch, obviously for the Purple Punch. I used a clone only for the Rosy OG, which is the Banana OG. Um, I used a clone only for the the wedding cake clone only for the pine cakes. So ultimately, for me at least, when I use, and that's just like just the ones from clone. Obviously, I do want ones from seed as well, like hunting for mothers from seed. Just introducing all those different genetics into the library now. You know what I mean? So it's almost like you're not remaking the wedding cake, but you're just making a hybridized version of it. So you're not reinventing the wheel. You're just like using that as an ingredient, almost to paint another picture down the line. So like, oh, Do you like the wedding cake? Oh, they had that one terp. Oh, I have some of those genetics. We do like 100 seed hunt. We probably could find a clone or a cultivar that matches something that we like from that. So you're just almost putting it into your library of genetics, and then you can try to do the math and figure out how many different females you would need to, try to like break down um, the traits. You know what I mean? But ultimately, I mean, for me at least, I used the clones and the other, just and seed for that matter, just to add more genetics into the library, so I can actually continue creating and then get to the point where breeders can start just crossing their own creations together, and then they make more creations from there on.
So does working with a clone only like speed up testing? Is that one plus of working with that type of clone? Because you know it's more
Absolutely.
stable.
No way. Nope, not at all. I think yeah, nothing changes in terms of us at least. Like it doesn't speed it up. I think the only thing that would speed up testing is your own gear. For example, like I know for sure that the Razi Kush has great traits that can be passed on from the male side. You know what I mean? So I know if I ever use him again to cross with it will be good. Whereas sometimes where you have like a new male, say you have like a new, like I want to use Black Rosy, a male. I would, before I use Black Rosy as a male, I would probably make sure that I ran all the males together. You know what I mean? And that would be my way of testing to see if which male is the kind of male that I want to use. You know what I mean? So, but once I select that male, I know that I can just keep that same male around and I can just use him for other projects. You know, and that's pretty much what I've done with the Rosy Kush. You know, I use that same male for like good like 4 or 5 different other strains, just because I already knew what it could do.
So if you could help me out here, brother, I do have a few males here that we had a gentleman that we met in the community this past year, DOA Grown Meds, who was a fellow weed nerd. And shout out to all the weed nerds there. But he passed suddenly this last year, so we decided we wanted to put together a strain and pass out, free in the community as like a memorial for him. So I've got a couple of males here. Both have really nice structure. So on top of that, what are some of the things I should be taking note of to separate the two?
Um, well, for me personally, I know there's a lot of different breeders and a lot of different people who make seed, do different things, but I think one of the biggest things for me is like the smell. You know, like I really want like a pungent smell male. I think that you know is a quality trait that you want to pass on is just like loud cannabis, right? So I think that is a solid trait that you would want to look for a male. And that and frost, just like you would as on a female plant. And then obviously, like you said, structure. And probably the most important, if not the second most important after like the aroma or the smell of the male, is probably just the vigor. You know what I mean? I think from my perspective, it seems like that's like the biggest part of what the male will pass on is the vigor and the strength and the quality of the stock and things of that nature in my opinion. So those are basically what I would look for is the vigor, the smell, frost, and structure.
Do you
Do you
flower out your males as part of the process of elimination there too?
say that again?
Do you flower out the males as part of the elimination process? Do you actually take them to flower before you chop any of them down? Like say, number one looks really good. It's loud. It's got that structure, and it's a lot of the pluses. But number four in the flip is like phenomenal. You know what I mean? So does that? Could that knock out 10 or 9, and you'll go with 4? Is that do you actually take them to flower, and is that the end decision?
Yes, I would probably say 90% of the time I take them to flower. Majority of the time I take them to flower at least once, just to see. So when because majority of the time when you do any of these kind of projects, you have clones. Usually have some extra clones. So either if I don't just test the males um, by themselves, I would probably do like when they're already just say you take clones of like your garden and then you flip everything else and you have clones of them. You would then just like flower them out. So sometimes if I had like a tent next door, I would just like, okay, all right, so these are male, so I'm just gonna take them out and I'm gonna just continue flowering them so I could just see them. And then I'll just take notes about which one that I liked. And then if they, for example, then the most for me at least, as soon as like they flower out and they get all hempy and they're tall and thin and then like they're not looking, they're just easy that you're just gonna eliminate that. So when you go through the culling process, it becomes real easy to get whittled down in your male selection. Um, a lot easier than females, in my opinion. You know, like they would just be standouts. Almost like a bull. Like just will just stand out. Um, Where I think with females, like flowers, there's so many awesome different phenotypes, and when it comes down to it, it's always more about like a personal preference. But when it comes to the males, just in my opinion, I think it's more like just kind of like a logic situation. Like, okay, well, this one's just beefier, like it's like looks so much different than every other male around. You know what I mean? You'll know what it like, why it should be chosen. It's like a stud. So, um, so majority of the time, I would flower them out. Um, And for, sometimes when it comes to like, for example, the times you don't is when you continue working on a project. Like say, for example, I'm going on to the next generation of Rosie Kush, which I'm going on to the F4s right now. So it's been several generations. So when I go look for the next set of males, I'm not going to flower out the males all the way through. Like I already know what I'm looking for, and I'm already going to see a lot of uniformity. And I'm pretty confident that, and they're pretty stable that whatever male that I do choose will be solid. You know what I mean? Unless it was like a run, but I don't think I would choose that. We use common sense, and you were like, okay, you have 16 males, and then you just like would know which one would be the one you would choose. Um, so it could go either way. Sometimes you flower them all the way out, and sometimes you just use logic, and you use yeah. I mean, you just sometimes you have to just roll the dice, I guess. But most of the time, you would just flower them out, especially if they're like new hybrids. But if they're like something that you've been working on for a while that's been stable, and you're just kind of like just trying to like cube it, and like then back cross it or something, then you wouldn't have to run the males that way. You would know early on in the development of, okay, this male is standing out. I'm going to use this one to breed, and then just go boom right to breeding.
And I got to give you again some props, man. Shout out to you and the breeders. They do what you do, help keep us, provided with seeds, new strains, and providing us with fucking a lot of your valuable garden space, man. Uh, there's a lot of time that goes into strains, man. A lot of power, time, nutrients, all that good shit before you even think about making a buck off of that shit. And again, taking up valuable space in a grow that could be flower just as valuable, you know what I mean? But you don't. You choose to better the community. So shout out to you, my friend. I greatly appreciate that shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of money. I mean, you really got to be in it because you want to do it. You know what I mean? If you're looking for like a livable wage, but it's not. I mean, to say that you're gonna like, it's just it's not as lucrative as a lot of other things in this industry, in our community. You know what I mean? Um, but I think it's just more about just producing something quality. It's almost like art to me. You know what I mean? And can always go up in value as time goes on. You know what I mean? So I just hope people appreciate what we're doing. And there's a lot of breeders just like me, um, who are just who really are trying to like not necessarily not like create something new. It's just more about just hybridizing something and like developing like a story or a profile, and bring it to the market. So shout out to Med, shout out to Titan, shout out to Loki. You know what I mean, Mr. Tight. I mean, a lot of new ones on the scene now too. Lorax and Justin Grow Time. I mean, have you tried to breed yet? I know you have like 8 tenths. I think you're muted.
I sure was. Thank you, brother. Yeah, I've tried to breed 4 or 5 strains. Nothing to try to put out to anybody. Just stuff for myself. But breeding's never really been a huge on the priority list. Maybe it someday. Maybe this project here was. It was more. I kind of had talked about it initially, just for something for the community. You know what I mean? Something that we could all take part in and have our hand in, and just keep something for free. You know what I mean? Just let everybody get in on it. But then the DOA passed, and it became something a little bit more special. But the dream's still there, none the same. To just kind of fool around with this, pass out some seeds, maybe find some winners out of that, maybe take it to the next round. Uh, be pretty cool. Be pretty cool, I think. Learn and with everybody else, live on air. What better way, right?
Hell yeah, man. I think anytime there's an opportunity to give out free cannabis seed, it's a great time to do it. I actually been thinking about doing that again too, you know? I mean, at the end of the day, there's definitely some projects that I understand people who are working on and they're putting a lot of time and effort into it. But there's also some other projects I think a lot of people would just appreciate if you just, you know. So I'm looking forward to just, giving out seeds again. You know what I mean? And actually, like my testing team, just give away seeds and stuff. So you know what I mean? Just seeds that I personally wouldn't want on the market right now, but I'm sure that somebody else could just grow if they just don't have access to quality genetics, you know?
You got an amazing tester team. Shout out to those guys as well, man. It's always an honor to be a tester and then be thrown into one of those groups with a bunch of other quality to growers, pick their minds, show each other and learn from each other behind the scenes. It's always a nice thing. And I'm glad you put that shit together, help put that together. You got an amazing team working with you there. So shout out to you and your testers there, bro.
Yeah, man. You were on that team for a little while when you were testing. Yeah, man. I mean, some people left, some people stay, but I totally understand how it goes and where, it was never about like, you know, if you wanted to test, then test. We could do that. You know what I mean? And like, there's not that many spots either. So it's not like I just have like all these things. So it's really cool that you came on. You did a great job with the Pine Valleys. I mean, I really give it up to you and a couple other people in the Pine Valleys. Dr. Buswell is leading the team right now. So at the end of the day, I mean, for me at least, and some people who are trying to get into this industry with cannabis seeds, obviously may or may not be doing it, but most people are doing it this way. The method that Vader's pretty much popularized with the whole idea of testing your seed. I mean that's an important part when it comes to hybridized seed making, just because you just don't know. Like I have so many examples. I mean, just a quick example is the Astrotropic. It's a project that I'm working on right now. I'm actually going on to the second round of testing, which is the first time ever in any of the hybrids that I've created, just because of the GG4 lineage is tendency to be hermaphrodites. So my hybrid was just shown, Med actually was part of the testing team. It was so cool that he did that. But they all, like everybody, including myself, was just like well above 50, maybe 60%, just like hermaphrodites, and it was just a situation where it was just like dead on arrival. But it was by far, in my opinion, out of all the hybrids I created, the most potent one. It was so potent, and it was, it was, yeah, it was great. So I'm looking forward to the next round of testing. It's Tropic Lightning crossed to the Astro Chimp. Tropic Lightning is a cross by Vader. It was the candy vomit pheno from like 2017. It was going around in Southern California. His cut super pungent. It smells like it's like nasty smell on the vine, but when you hear it, when you cure it up, cut it down, it's just like so sweet. It's like such a sweet cannabis. And then for the father, it was that Astro Chimp, which is a cross by Shrimp, and that's where it had the GG4 in it. And that GG4, in my opinion, it was the culprit of why that trait went on to my hybrid. So at the end of the day, it's one of those situations. It's been like 3 years I've been working on this, but I know I really want to. I put a lot into it. I really think it would work out. So I'm actually testing that next generation, like literally right about now, to see if we breed it out that trait, because I think it's a really nice hybrid. It's a great nighttime strain. I have some hot daytime strains and sweet ones. This one is definitely more of that. like sweet gas type profile. Um, so yeah, yeah, I'm excited, man. And people just do different things the way they breed. That's what it really comes down to, and yeah, it's one of those situations where, for me at least, that I just didn't want to, because I definitely canned a few strains over the years. I just didn't want to let this one go just because I grew it out and it was fire. You know what I mean? It's just unfortunately like the majority of the cultivars shown hermaphrodites, and there was no way that I was gonna put that on the market. You know what I mean? Even if it's only small, like I'm like I'm not pushing packs like that, but I'm pushing enough. But and I wouldn't do that personally. You know, put seed that I know for a fact tested to be hermaphrodites. I'd rather do the work and breed it out.
There's some of those that don't make the test just for that reason. Uh, show slight Hermes signs, but in like I've had one black. It was a black line reserve cross times over emulsion. Amazing strain, super loud, and I had full plans of keeping it because I really like the black line side of things. But in flower, mid flower, she wanted to throw that nanner, and so
Yeah.
it didn't pass the testing phase of things, and even though it didn't pass the testing, I grew it out a few more runs. And what I found was great strain. All you had to do was pull back on nutrients midway through flower and she'd finish up fine. But if you continued to push her until, late six or something like that, then she threw that banana. So sometimes
Right.
good strains get stepped aside for, you know, silly reasons to where it could be one of them things that it still gets sold with the note of you know hold back your nukes late in flower, and you'll avoid problems like that. But some strains again are worth
That
the risk. I've ran some that are
that's
worth
not
that fucking risk.
But that sounds like a problem that you could probably solve when you do the work. I mean, if you're saying that the strain is so fire, but when you push it too hard mid flower, it starts to show nanas, hermaphrodites, and that's a situation. If you just thought about maybe like going, no, so you take that female and then you find a new male, and you look for a male that you would want to pass some kind of traits on to, so that way maybe you could figure out a way to you know curb that. You know and then you would just have to, and that's where the hunting comes in, and that's like the biggest part for me in breeding is the hunting, is like just finding phenotypes. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, obviously once in a while you have your clone only hybrids, which are fun, right? They're fun. And like for example, for me, like none of the hybrids that I did that made it like have even like came close to gone through testing. The more situation where it's just something I'm working on and I have the lineage in the genetics, right? So like the Rossi Punch is on deck right now still. You know what I mean? The banana OG. It's I think it made it through testing. I'm actually haven't said anything about it, but I'm hoping that most likely we'll see the market sooner than later. Just a small amount that I do have of the banana, the Rossi OG, which is that banana cross, which is definitely interesting cultivar. But yeah,
As far as testing goes, because I really believe that's an important part of the program. And so this is a two-part question. So what are you looking for in your testers? And in a perfect world, no rush, you know what I mean, man, all the time in the world. How long would you like to see, things get tested before they actually went out?
um, 10 testers would be like ideal for me. If I could, I mean, which is shooting high. You know what I mean? If I could have 10 people like flower it out at the same time, like right after, you know, that would be like and have like some kind of, not necessarily like raw data, like inputting into like some kind of like spreadsheet or like a Google Doc or something. Just photos. maybe Instagram, not even Instagram, maybe just like a email with a photo and a couple words or two about what's going on, any issues like, you know, pests or just what their environmental, just like more of like just like a documentation. That would be cool. Like 10 people, like that would be like you're killing it right there. But if you could literally just test it on your own as a breeder, if you could test it on your own and document it, you're good to go. But for somebody like me, I would definitely like 7 to 10 people, maybe 5 to 10 people would be so cool. Um, you know, to document like publicly would be really cool too, so other people can see. That would be that'd be really cool. You know what I mean? And for me, I think a lot of testers are just looking. A lot of breeders are and people who make seed just are looking for people who will follow through and just pop the seeds and try to the best ability to flower it out to completion.
Nice, nice. That's I like to ask that question because I think quality testing is very key in my opinion. Both to make sure they're going to do what they're going to do, and two, that they have the trust between tester and breeder that they're not going to run out and do anything pre-release with the strain, either rebreed with it or release clones or shit, silly shit like that I've seen get done many, many times. So that's why I asked what you look for in your testers. Is it like, do you look down their page or
I
you
mean,
go
I
back
definitely
and
vet
forth
them.
with them?
I definitely talk to them and vet them out, and and I definitely wouldn't want have anybody who was on the team other than just people who wanted to test the strain out. You know what I mean? So if there's a situation where a tester wanted to like become his own breeder, I definitely could work with him somehow and like give him like a step in the right direction, of course. But yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't be entertaining anybody. I mean, people can do whatever they want. They want to buy any kind of pack of seed and then go breed with it. Do you? That was yours and stuff. But in terms of like testing, I mean, you know, it would just be weird. Why would you do that? You know, I mean, I'm just the people that I mean, the people that I have testing have definitely been, vetted, and there's definitely new avenues, at least in the ocean grown front, that you can actually become a tester. If you go to like, I think it's ocean. If you go to Ocean Grown Seeds Instagram page and you go hit the Discord link and you go join that Discord server, there's a lane for you to become a tester. Um, and you can get free seed and you could test it out and you can post it in a public forum on the server opposed to Instagram or YouTube, and you can put in the work and you can get, you can become a tester for sure. And that's the quickest way to become a tester for me too. So you if you joined that server and you wanted to test out any of some of these new hybrids, that would be the quickest way to become a tester for ocean grown seeds. So go to Ocean Grown Seeds Instagram page, click on the Discord server link, and then there's some information there where the process of becoming a tester. And there's a lot of great companies out there who do pretty much similar things when it comes to like testing them out. And I think most breeders they just want you just, I mean, because the simple fact is you're giving out free seed, and which is whatever, but it's not like they're giving. You're not like, you don't like know them like that. I mean, obviously, if you have like a guy that oh yeah, here's some free seed, but it's not that big of a deal. But in terms of just giving out free seeds to a lot of people, you want to make sure like that there was some kind of understanding about the ultimate goal, which is to run the seed and flower it out and have some kind of, you know, feedback. And all the data is welcome, you know. And for me, I've been, like Eagle, you've been a tester for me, at least for Pine Valleys. I wasn't sure if you were with me for the for the Rossi, but I think it was just Pine Valleys. But anyways,
Yes, sir. Just
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really all about the data. You know what I mean? How much data that you can give them would be awesome at the end of the day because you just don't want to have hermaphrodites. I think the biggest issue is hermaphrodites. And if you're having a bunch of your testers come back to you and say like, all you, these this whole crop is like hermaphrodites, then you know that's something, and you got to go back to the drawing board. Um, and most breeders know go using a lot of different strains over. There's a lot of these legacy cuts that you use, and there's form cut, gorilla glue, these are, there's hermaphrodite in the lineage. So there's always that chance that whether it's environmental stress or just, sheer dumb luck or whatever, that trait got passed on. Who knows how it happens, but it did get passed on, whether it skips a generation. I don't know, that's a theory. Um, So, which is one of the theories I have. I'm not even sure where I read it, but I did read it at that point that, and maybe not even in cannabis genetics, but just in genetics in general, that some traits skip a generation. So I'm hoping, I don't even want to say hope. I'm planning for the way that I bred this project, the what I call astrotropic, which is the cross between tropic lightning and astro chimp. Call it tropic lightning, all one word, capital T. Um, excuse me, I call it astrotropic, all one word, capital A. Um, that I bred out the that trait. Um, I'm really looking forward to that project too. Like I said earlier, it's heavy hitter, and for people like me who like that, obviously I like a daytime smoke, but for the nighttime smoke, this is definitely for me in my small catalog. That would be the one that I'd be like, oh yeah, for sure, this one. You know what I mean? And for daytime, I would definitely say Pine Valleys, and for like afternoon, it'd be the Rosy or whatever. The Black Rosy is one of those anytime strains. So there's a variety. But this new strain that I've been working on, yeah, I'm seeing where it goes for sure.
What is available currently?
I did a small drop of the Black Rosy just recently back in 420. It actually did sell out pretty quickly, and I am doing a small restock of that as soon as possible. So should definitely stay on the lookout for the Black Rosy. That will be on Ocean Grown Seeds and lumberjackseedsource.com. So Black Rosy. And then for this fall, I will be releasing the Rosy OG, and that's the banana OG cross for the Rosy Kush. After some serious testing with that one and some killer flavors, very interesting profiles. That should be interesting hybrid as well. Um, and then I'm working on a couple other things. I'm going to put more work into. For example, that Rosy Punch, I'm going to keep putting more work into that one. Uh, like I was just talking about the Astro Tropic, I'm putting some work into that. And then I just have some new, just been hunting for new seed.
So do you let the strain tell you kind of when to stop? You know what I mean? F2, yeah, she's beautiful all the way around. I got what I want. I'm not gonna take it to the F3, work it down a little bit further. Or do you have a set plan that I am working it all the way down to F3? I want it all clone like, no more fetal hunt. Is that
Yeah. Um, for me, it's a plan usually. Um, for example, I haven't even moved down the line that much. Like I'm such in the infancy of my breeding when it comes down to it. We started like 5 years ago, but 5 years may seem like a long time, but unless you're using like a warehouse that you can like have like thousands of plants growing, it's gonna take you a while to get through things. So for me, like the Rosy Kush, I think that I was just like, I'm gonna cube it, go to the F4, and that would be now, and I would just keep it at that. You know what I mean? And then maybe just do something different and like do like, dig into the previous generations and do some kind of back cross. But as of right now, I thought that I'll just keep it there and either maybe even keep it where it's at, which is the F3. So and most of the other ones that I'm thinking, is just like the F2BX. I think that's just like a quality good number to be at. So you would take it to the F2, and then you would just back cross it to the F1, and that would just be. I think that's just a quality like line of stock that you could get, because that way it gives you some kind of a nice variety, but also brings it back to like what your original goal was, which is that F1 mother. So that's what I would say. But I mean, it really all depends. If you want to do the whole like IBL inbred line and you want to go down to the F5s, like I'm doing with the Rozzy Kush, um, it's really all about what you want to do. How do you want to paint this picture? You know what I mean? Like, sky's the limit. If you want to be a breeder who wants to just keep the F1s and stuff, like do it. Why not? There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to take it and do like F2s, do it. So it's pretty much what your heart desires. You know what I mean? Like, there's really no book on how to do it, but obviously there's some traditional ways of breeding that you read, like Short and others over like they would probably say. I mean, I'm guess F5 would probably be like, okay, boom, you put a lot of work into this hybrid, so you know what I mean.
So I have to ask this question. I ask it of everybody else. Was there a point in your cannabis journey where you kind of seen, things change from, yeah, I'm smoking this to, wow, this thing really does have a lot of weight to it, as far as medical and stuff like that. Uh, have you had that revelation yet, or no?
Yes, I have actually, Eagle. I don't know if I even told you about it, but I totally skipped that part of my cannabis journey. I just thought about it. Um, but basically, I mean, so the reason why I even got into cannabis, like just growing cannabis, was so after I moved out to California, I grew cannabis for the first time, and then I moved back to the East Coast. Right, I moved back to the East Coast after my first child was born. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go back to the East Coast. I'm gonna have family and friends. Will be like a whole like, oh, the raise a village or this and that, and have like all these different people that you grew up with or out there to help you. I was a young father, or like mid 20s. Long story short, I got diagnosed. I had like issues with when I was 16. I got diagnosed with this like eye disorder called optic neuritis, and then I always was told I had issues like, and that's when I first got glasses. Like like I thought like something happened. Funny story is, and when I got diagnosed with this eye disease when I was 16 years old, I was like smoking a joint like in the driveway, and I swear to God, I thought it was a piece of ash would go into my eye. And I was like, fuck. And like a day later, my eye was just like killing me. I was like, the fuck? So I was just like, I thought it was just because of that. So either way, a long story short, I went to the doctor, and then I was referred to like an eye doctor, and then I got diagnosed with this eye disease. And I thought it was this weird coincidences, which I don't even believe in those anymore. But at the time, that's what I thought it was. I was like, what the fuck? That's just so strange that I was smoking a joint, and I thought I got like a piece of ash in my eye, and it fucking hurt this like hell, right? And that's what I thought it was, and it turned out that it wasn't even that. It was nothing to do with that. There's no ash issue. Um, so that disease, I was told like, oh, there's a chance that this may turn into multiple sclerosis. And as of right now, 20 years later, like that disease is almost obsolete. Like if you get diagnosed with optic neuritis, you're already diagnosed with MS. It's almost like a sub part of MS. So long story short, I was diagnosed with MS, and I went through all the rigors, and it was bullshit, and I had like this traumatic experience when I got diagnosed because I like lost vision in the eye. It was like this horrible story. I think I told about it. I talked the whole story on YouTube a while back. And that's what really got me into being like a serious grower. And that was probably, what was that, 2009, I think. So in 2009, which was 4 years later, so it was already like a cabinet grower. I moved back to the East Coast as a cabinet grower. I was always into growing, ever since I was, first time I started out here in California. Um, but then I went back to the east and I started growing. So I remember growing, and just before the tent era, there was like this cabinets. People had cabinets. We used like I used dressers and I used closets or whatever you could use to grow. Um, Most of the time, you would just build some kind of like makeshift chamber or custom cabinet. Um, but after my diagnosis with MS, I mean, that was the real deal, and that was the situation where I knew for a fact that that instant pain relief was something that was in my future. And I knew that I didn't want to do the narcotics. That wasn't my thing. I was definitely more of that, stoner type, you know what I mean, who was more into, you know, cannabis than I was into just like drinking and like pills and shit like that, like or pharmaceuticals or whatever. So that's what really spurred me to be like a grower was for that reason. And it was just having like clean medicine. You know what I mean? Going through all that, you just was like, okay, now it's time to like switch up. This is this is early, well, late 2000s, but it was just like before there was like, it was actually 3 or 4 years before there was even medical in the state of Massachusetts at the time. So there wasn't even medical. And even the medical was still like suspicious unless you're growing it yourself to really know how they're growing it and what they're using it. So ultimately, that was why I got so serious into growing and breeding was for the medicinal purposes.
The reason I asked that is because for most people that unless there's an injury that occurs along the way and they see the medical benefit through, the actual taking of the medicine, I find that shift is, even though, even sometimes, even like myself, I've seen the weight, but when it came to growing the cannabis, that's when things really clicked. You know what I mean? It changed everything how I felt about the plant. Then that was the point that I would realize there was something more to the plant than just getting. I believe in that. With that being said, I believe the plant's still cultivating me, my friend, as a person.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah,
So,
I think
what
that's
kind of music do you play? I'm curious to ask you that if you don't mind.
what kind of music do I listen to, or what kind of music do I play?
You play, yeah. You mentioned playing. I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I was so yeah, one of my first loves was definitely trying to like be a rock star, so to speak. Not necessarily rock music, but just that life. You know what I mean? So I've been into music for forever, and it was my genre of music was hip hop. So I am a beat maker. It's funny now that I call myself a seed maker, which is the reason why I even call myself a seed maker. I know like people want to use breeder, people want to use hybridizer, or I think people other terms, but for me, at least in my career of making seed, I like the term of seed maker. And the reason why I call myself seed maker is directly because of my music background in music, which was beat making. So that's what I was. So I make hip hop beats, old school. Um, Hunt for samples in an old school record shop. I have a little record collection, like actually depleted collection. I think I gave away a few vinyl. But yeah, so I use vinyl, and we chop up samples, and I find like a sample, and then I loop it, and then I have synthesizers, and I use drum machines, and so yeah, it's all hardware. I know a lot of people who make music now, electronic music, they use just like computers and stuff, and I do use computers to record, but I'm definitely like an outboard type of musician. So we I keep on saying we like I'm talking to the third person. It's just me. I use yeah, I use a synthesizer, and I have a couple of beat machines and a sampler. And what I do is I chop up a sample using the keyboard, and then I use a sampler almost like an instrument, and I make beats that way. So my type of music that I make is just beats in general. Like I make a lot of melodic beats, but the genre I would probably just say would be hip hop, trip hop, instrumental music.
That's awesome. Still working today? Still working on it from time to time today?
I wish I was. I'm actually that's the part I'm working on. I'm working on this little space that I'm in right now. It's a little like probably say like 10 by 8, maybe 12 by 8 room that I'm working on, which is going to be a lung room to my shop. If you can imagine, I have like a 9 by 10 flower room next to a 8 by 8 bedroom. And then in the third room is this office, which is going to now be a studio, which will have all my music equipment as well as other streaming capabilities. So that way, that's what I was telling you. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get this all set up. I have my little lights and everything, be nice and fresh. Um, so that way the background will look cool, not just like me smoking in a garage. But yeah, so yeah, so I'm gonna have it all set up. But yeah, a lot of the beats that I've used are several years old actually. So a lot of the beats, all my content is I use my own beats, and yeah, they're just old beats from like late 2000s, some of the early 2010s. So yeah, it's been several years, probably about like at least probably from like right before I got on the team. So it's probably around like 2014 is when I probably pretty much slowed it down making beats. I really focused on growing as well as having a regular day job at the time. So that's where, yeah, but yeah, I still have all the equipment and I still have ideas and I still have foundations of songs that I'm making. So I have one of my series on YouTube. It's called Buds and Beats, and it's pretty much like a what Vader would call like the bud porn, which is just pretty much you just sixth, seventh, eighth week of flower. You go through your room and you know take shots of your the all the tops with some music to it. So I called the show like Buds and Beats. So those are all my beats with the my flower room shots. So there's actually one season up there right now if you check it out at gmxtv.com. Um, but yeah, man, that's what I mean. Yeah, I really do like making music and like using the music with the content. And I'm looking forward to making new music too. So I'll be doing new music, probably doing that shit live too if it's all when it's all said and done, which would be cool to share like some of the other things I do besides just grow cannabis.
I hope you do it in a live kind of thing. In my opinion, uh, it'll always be there in the replay as you would, uploading it. But you might as well have some fun with it on the day of the release. Talk to some folks and get to know the community, or have some interaction with them at least. A lot of fun, and why not? Why not? That's why I say it. Why not?
Hell yeah.
I want I want to say about the smoking in the grass thing because that's my thing. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
thing, man. I do that, but I've actually tried to dress things up. You know what I mean, with the background and shit like that, and live and learn. From what I've learned from that, it's for one, they won't let me. Well, there's no choice really. I'll have to say, right? But when I don't have the background on, or when I do have a background, everybody's like, "Hey, where's the plants?" We like seeing the
Yeah.
plants instead. And then what I've noticed too is like interview. This one's a little bit different because we're both not on camera here anymore. But I found when I'm interviewing somebody, it seems to be more relaxed without the background. It's more like person to person, not like show. You know what I mean? That's what I, so that's why I do the smoking in the grass thing. I think it's more like an intimate conversation myself. But just me,
Definitely, man.
just me. So, are you guys going to be at any of the shows this year, or is it
Not
online
this
type
year.
thing
Not
this year?
this year. Not this year. I'm not sure about this summer. I think there may be some talk, but not that I know of for this year. I think a lot of the focus right now is just, a lot of events are going on, digital and virtual events that are going on through Discord. So if they do go to Ocean Grown Seeds Instagram, and then you click on the Discord link, you could find out some more information about what Ocean Grown is and everybody's doing. Um, but no events that I know of right now. I know things are fast moving with the pandemic and everything that's going on. But as of right now, I know people are doing a lot of things, but not that I know of. There are not any events. I know there's some new releases coming out, including the I'm restocking the Black Rossi, but I'm not sure if there's any. Not that I know of. I'm almost positive that they're not, but from not no, there's no events that I know of this year, or at least not in-person events. I think there are a couple of new virtual events that will be happening, but nothing in person quite yet. I am looking forward to going back to Oklahoma. That was one of the coolest events out of all the little event season. I actually never been to the Michigan event, so I can't say anything about Michigan, but I know from, you know, a few from the Denver and from California and Oklahoma. It was definitely a cool little, interesting little city. They called it like Smokelahoma. So that was an interesting, just like a very young cannabis scene in the sense of like their legislation. But it was cool to see. Um, but yeah, I was hoping to do Michigan, but I'll probably do it next year, hopefully.
That'd be awesome. We've got an awesome community here as far as events go, man. We've got some going here. Fuck, I think there's one every weekend this month, and possibly every weekend next month as well. So yeah, get your ass to Michigan, man.
Yeah, man, tell me about it. I mean, there's just events going on everywhere, and even back in the East Coast, there's all the ones up and down East Coast from Rhode Island all the way up to Maine. So there's definitely things going on. But for Ocean Grown, as of right now, I know that it's more of the focus right now is on the Discord server and everything that's going on there in terms of the content and the, just different little contests that we're doing in terms of growing and, you know, different projects that the other team guys on the team are working on. And for me, I am just solid working on finally building this shop completely out and then starting to push out more content, different content that I've been doing, moving away from the just the basic infotainment, just like the vlog series, to move into other parts of what I'm doing. Like I said, doing with music and other content development. So I'm looking forward to other things that I'm going to be doing this year for sure. Besides just showing off, growing and stuff. And looking forward to doing some new breeding projects as well, and bringing back some strains like Pine Valleys and Rosy Kush.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So I'd like to tell you that it has been a pleasure to have you on tonight. If you do happen to find some time in the future, my friend, and studio set up and like to come hang out, do you know about the wormhole? Do you know what the wormhole is?
I think I watched it. I know it's your buddies on there. And, oh, it's 1010. That's a lucky number right there. It's 1010 right now in Los Angeles. Um, yeah, I heard about the wormhole. I think I saw it a couple of times. That you guys were talking and stuff. What time is the wormhole starts?
Well, it's basically filler. Mondays is for sure a wormhole. Any other night, it's whenever this aspect of the show kind of goes to the end. I usually reload up with the wormhole, but that is open to all past guests like yourself. Please keep that Zoom invitation that I sent you because that is the link that I use for the wormholes. And you're more than welcome to
Cool.
jump in at any time, hang out, talk reading, cannabis, whatever. Sometimes it's some nights it's not even cannabis at all. We're talking conspiracy or whatever. It's kind of hard to talk cannabis 5 hours a night every day. Sometimes
Yeah,
they're
I can
slow.
imagine.
I
Well,
actually,
I'll definitely come back if you want to just go. We'll go on when I get the studio set up. I'll make some rounds. I'll definitely stop through if you want. I'll come back on the show and I'll show you off my little office space when it's all said and done. So that way we can be on camera.
yeah, that'd be pretty awesome, my friend. You don't have to wait till then. I mean, you can come anytime you want. You got the invitation now, so feel free to use it whenever you see fit. I mean, even if you were just to pop in and announce, a release or anything to that effect, you can use it for that as well, man. It's all relates to the community, so if they can find gear and keep their gardens growing, I'm well open to it, my friend.
Appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Well, cool, man. I'm gonna definitely come back on, but yeah. Before I get out of here, I just want to quickly say, I mean, I want to shout out to the GMX testing team. They've been holding me down since day one, and I couldn't do any of this stuff that I'm trying to do without them. So I do appreciate them. And I also want to shout out Vader and Ocean Grown Seeds. And peace, man. I'll be back on. So I'm gonna stay up with you. I have the link. It's in my email, so I'll definitely come back on and we could chop it up some more. But it was great talking to you, Eagle.
One last thing before you go, my friend, and that is the soundbite. I try to get that from everybody that comes on the show. Basically, what I'm asking for is like that radio station identification kind of thing we used to do back in the day on the radio. But basically, what I'm looking for in my words is, hey, this is Eagle Gardens, and I'm on fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 412. You can add anything up and down to that. Basically, it'll be a commercial for your episode, so make them want to watch it, my friend.
So I say I'm Gmxog. I'm fucking talking shit with Eagle. Wait, say it again. One more time.
Basically, hey, this is Eagle. I'm fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 412. Anything you want to throw on that, check me out on Ocean Grove, whatever.
Okay, okay.
Whatever you want to add to it, my friend.
All right, cool.
I'm ready when you are. All right.
My name is Gmxog, and I am on fucking talking shit with Eagle Gardens 1. You can find me. Did I fuck it up? Did I fuck it up? I think I fucked it up.
I'll take it. You can do it. You can do it over if you'd like.
Yeah, yeah. What's good? This is Gmxog. I am on talking fucking shit with Eagle. Check me out on Instagram at Gmxog. And again, Eagle, thanks for having me on the show, man. Appreciate you, man.
Anytime. It was worth the wait, my friend. It was worth the wait. You have a great night, and hopefully I will talk again soon.
Yeah, man. Take care, man. Peace.
Peace. Well, there you guys go. That is episode 412 in the can. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys will follow over to the wormhole. Give me a few minutes and I'll fire things up. But if not, then thank you for your time. You guys know the deal. Please do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. Thank you for tuning in.